Hello, I'm the Jolly Saver, and in this video, I'm going to show you how much I spent cooking BBC Good Food recipes. So, I'm going to show you a few clips of me cooking the recipes, a breakdown of the price, and I'll give you my view on the recipes and how much I enjoyed them. The first recipe I cooked was a red lentil and squash dal. So I really like curry, so I was really excited to make this recipe. So it involved a lot of chopping up veg, putting them on the pan. I must excuse the mess of our hob when I filmed this video, but I thought, let's be real and let's show what an actual kitchen looks like. So part of the recipe was letting the lentils soak and stew on the hob and simmer for, about 40 minutes so that the lentils really swelled and they were really lovely. The recipe itself, when it was fully done, was really nice and sweet. It had mango chutney in. I had a naan bread already, so I added the naan bread. And yeah, I really enjoyed this recipe. Um, the total cost for the recipe for serving two people was £3. So that meant that the cost per person was £1.50. So yeah, really enjoyed that first recipe. The next recipe we tried was a really easy recipe and it was corned beef hash. So we did this on a night when we were quite busy and we just wanted a quick recipe. So here's some nice clips of me chopping some sweet potatoes. So look at me chop, go, go, go. So I did substitute the potatoes in the recipe with sweet potatoes, so I had to have them boil on the hob for a bit. And then you can see here me adding that all into the pan and giving it a good mix. But it was a really quick recipe to do. Part of the recipe was adding beans at the end, and you can see that steam coming off it there. It was really nice, really yummy. And the total cost of it was actually a bit higher than I expected. So the total cost was £5 between the two of us. Part of that cost was really the corned beef, and then the cost per person was £2.50. The next recipe we tried was Scandi meatballs. Now, I love meatballs, so we're really excited to try this recipe. So the next few clips, you'll just see some of the ingredients that we set out and put in the oven and put on the hob. But yeah, it was one of those midweek recipes, so I was really excited to try it. You're going to see in a moment the clip of the final um, result. Now, it doesn't look as appetizing as it actually was, so I will say that the smell was amazing, and I did add some garlic bread because I always have to have garlic bread when I have meatballs. So the total cost was £6.49, so the cost per person was £3.24, and I really enjoyed this recipe. Next up, we have healthy gnocchi. Now, I was looking forward to trying this recipe because we normally try a gnocchi and kale and sausage recipe, but this one had butter beans in and no meat, so I was intrigued to know what it would taste like. It was very quick and easy to do. I did try a clip of me adding the parmesan, but I totally failed at that clip, so you'll just have to see the finished result of the parmesan being in the pan. And again, I used the other garlic baguette that I bought this week to have with this meal. It did make some leftovers, so we did have some leftovers for the next day, which was great. The total cost for this meal, you'll see on the next slide. So it was £5.25 in total. So that meant the cost per person was £2.63. The final evening meal that we tried this week was the one pot chicken and rice. The reason I like the look of this recipe was because, it's all in one pot, so less pans to clean up at the end. So again, you're going to see a few clips of this cooking. So you can see I've got my stock in my trusted Pyrex jug. And yeah, and then it was, again, I did choose to cook the rice in another pan, but that was mainly just because I was using some rice I already had in the cupboard, so not easy cook rice, the rice that takes 20 minutes or so to cook. So it was just easier to have that in a separate pan. You'll see on the next clip that it was one of these ones where actually it was really tasty and it looked really nice in person, but on the camera when I took a video, it didn't actually quite do it justice. But the total cost for this meal was £7.29 in total, and the cost per person was £3.65. Now, I am not a baker, but I did want to challenge myself this week. So I looked at the lemon drizzle cake recipe and I did make that. So coming up, you'll see the remnants of the mixing bowl at the end of putting all the ingredients together and giving it a good mix. So what I did have to do was after mixing was to put it all in the cake tin that I had. So luckily I did have two cake tins in the cupboard. I thought it might spill out into two of the tins, but actually I managed to get it into one. I also have a juicer on the top of my cover that normally doesn't come out, but this recipe required me to juice two lemons, so I had great fun in trying out the juicer, and you can see I had problems putting the lid back on. So yeah, once that was in the oven, I made sure I didn't open the oven door so it would rise, and yeah, it came out really nice. The smell was beautiful, as cakes always do smell very nice. And yeah, and then I let it cool on the cooling rack, and I added the sort of lemon topping at the end, like the recipe says. So the total cost for the cake, which sort of served me and my partner throughout the week, was £4.44, and so the cost per person was £2.22. So the cost of the five meals plus the lemon drizzle cake for the ingredients was £31.48. So that meant that the cost per person was £15.74. So I really enjoyed using these from the BBC Good Foods website. So I've linked all the recipes down in the description box below if you want to check them out and try them yourself. But yeah, I find it a lot easier when meal planning if I've got a few recipes in mind, and if I try to cook something that I haven't really had before, then it's a bit of excitement when I'm when I'm eating the food, because I think sometimes when you're budgeting, you can get in the habit of eating quite boring meals, or meals that you've had hundreds of times before in the past. So it's quite nice to have a sort of array of recipes that's on the BBC Good Food website to try out. But yeah, if you've got any recipe suggestions, then do let me know in the comments box down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then do hit the subscribe button, because I'll be posting more of these what I eat in a week style videos in the future.